Springfest at Lowe's means can't miss savings for your home and lawn. Right now, buy 3 bags, get 3 free on Miracle-Gro 3/4 cubic foot all-purpose garden soil. Plus, buy 2, get 1 free on select exterior paint and stain via mail-in rebate. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/16, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. While supplies last, selection varies by location. See rebate form for complete list of eligible products. Offer excludes clearance and mist tints and can't be combined with any other offer, promotion, discount, or coupon.
Our city's history is littered with big-time sporting events. Something about Live from Las Vegas that adds a lot of flash to a title fight or a showdown. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're looking at the huge WrestleMania 41 coming to Allegiant Stadium with superfan AJ Moyer. We talk history of wrestling, Vegas's role, and why this event is so special. It's Tuesday, April 15th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. AJ, the Golden Knights were our first official big-time major sports league in Las Vegas. Did wrestling lay the groundwork for sports in Las Vegas, you think?
In some ways, I think it has. Even going back to the early 90s, we had WrestleMania 9 here back in the day, and we've always had very, very good houses for big wrestling shows here.
Yeah, I heard WrestleMania 9 wasn't so thrilling.
Yeah, no, WWE is actually putting out a documentary, or when this airs, will have put out a documentary about how much of a debacle WrestleMania 9 was.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a transition between generations in the business, and transition in Vegas as a city where we were becoming more family friendly, and WWE was trying to embrace that, and didn't really work out very well.
Some kind of weird surprise ending with Hulk Hogan taking everything. Was that it? Or I'm trying to remember. Our newsletter editor, Rob Coucherese, is a huge fan, and he was trying to brief me on it. And I was like, that sounds crazy.
Yeah. If you count the title match at the end of the night, there were 4 matches on the card that ended with kind of screwy non-finishes. So you had a double count out, 2 disqualifications, and then Bret Hart won the championship from Yokozuna. And then a returning from injury Hulk Hogan came out, squashed Yokozuna, took the belt from him, and that was the end of the show. So, yeah, pretty rough event in the annals of WrestleMania.
Yeah, sounds like a giant wah-wah over the loudspeaker, and then everyone told to go home.
Definitely didn't help that it was outside either.
Oh, right. Yeah, don't do sporting events completely outside in Las Vegas, y'all. I actually remember big time. So we would watch wrestling when I was a kid on TV because it would show up in mid-afternoon on the weekends and stuff. And then some of the big names, and again, we're talking back in the 70s before you were born, AJ Moyer, my grandpa would take me to shows over at the old Las Vegas Convention Center in the Rotunda. And we would see guys like Baron von Raschke. I remember he was the big heel. And I just loved booing for him. And we just had a grand old time. So wrestling does go back a little ways in our city even.
Yeah, and there are a lot of connections now with wrestling in Vegas. Even aside from our own local promotions, it's a popular spot for wrestlers to live because of the tax situation here.
Sure. Everyone's here. We are the melting pot of the giant melting pot of America. So let's get into what is WrestleMania and why is WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas such a big deal?
This is the first time WrestleMania has been here since WrestleMania 9, so it's been 32 years. Now we have a much bigger stadium for it, so we're indoors at Allegiant, not in the parking lot of Caesar's Palace. WrestleMania is essentially like WWE's version of the Super Bowl. The whole year in that business builds to this week and to that event. So on top of WrestleMania itself being the culmination of all these storylines that have been told on TV and through social media nowadays for the entire year, it's the culmination of all that, a bit of a resetting, starting of new stories. It's really kind of the peak of the business. And along with WrestleMania itself, it also draws other companies into town. So there are, I think I counted it at 62 total shows from the 17th to the 22nd that are not even WWE shows.
Wow. All right. So it's going to be taking over our town. And the way you're describing it with the storylines, it kind of makes me think a little bit of comic books. You know, you have all the individual characters, and then this is like the Avengers movie where all the storylines kind of come to some manner of resolution, but also sequels in the making.
Yeah, this is your big crossover event. And right now, one of the things that's exciting with the business right now of wrestling is that just last year, we had the culmination at WrestleMania of what basically was a 40-year-long story going back to Vince McMahon taking over the territories and Dusty Rhodes being the one holdout against that. And last year at WrestleMania, we got to see Dusty Rhodes' son try to finish his father's story and win the championship his father never could, from a guy who was basically the blessed and ordained carrier of the torch from Vince McMahon.
Wow.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well-organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
Hey, CityCast. According to me and my calculator, you will spend more time this week between the sheets than you will at work. So upgrade your sheets to Cozy Earth. Luxury starts where you rest. I start my evening in buttery soft Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas. Then I dip into a Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set. They are silky and temperature regulating. Forget the 9 to 5. Prioritize your 5 to 9. Cozy Earth products will transform those hours into a sanctuary. And they take comfort seriously with a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Luxury should not be out of reach, so Cozy Earth is giving CityCast listeners 40% off their best-selling sheets, towels, pajamas, and more. Visit CozyEarth.com and use the code CozyLasVegas for 40% off, because you deserve a great night's sleep, and sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.
You mentioned that there's 60 other events in town for WrestleMania. I'm wondering if any of the old timers that I know the names, you know, not just Hulk Hogan, but Ric Flair, and is Ric Flair still alive? He's still with us, isn't he? Yeah. Okay. Thank God. You know, and I don't follow him close enough to see who's with us and who's not. I mean, I know Andre the Giant's gone, but I wonder about the Undertaker, you know, and so what other events are standing out to you that are adjacent to WWE?
Undertaker is still around. One of the other WWE hosted events happening at Fontainebleau is he calls it the One Dead Man Show. And it's Undertaker telling stories of his wrestling career. I went to the first one that he did out here, and he brought out Charles Wright, who used to be the Godfather, and before that, Papa Shango in WWE. And they sat on the stage and drank a bottle of whiskey, passing it back and forth and just telling stories from the road.
Love.
Ric Flair is going to be out here at WrestleCon along with Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, who were in the Four Horsemen back in the day. Plenty of other senior and younger wrestlers making appearances at WrestlingCon, doing signings, doing photo ops. The shows that I'm the most excited for are mostly being put on by GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. They do one called Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, where they take a wrestling ring, take off the turnbuckles, the turnbuckle pads, all the ropes. It's essentially just the mat and 4 posts. And the only way to win is knockout, submission, or ref stoppage. And it really blurs the lines between what is and isn't real or agreed upon in the ring. And I've seen some pretty brutal shots in those before.
I gotta wonder where the Nevada Sporting Commission, or whatever it's called, that regulates these sort of blood sport fights, is weighing in on this. Is there any suggestion that they might be crossing some lines?
Not that I've heard. There are still a lot of contracted talent, and I'm sure there's a lot behind the scenes as far as the negotiations with all that. There are a lot more WWE wrestlers, or they call them superstars, participating in Bloodsport this year than we've seen before. So could be interesting to see how different it is from what it's been in years past.
Yeah, woof. Wrestling has had a fairly constant presence in the mainstream media as far back as I can remember. The big stars are really now, maybe more than ever, turning into big movie stars. Why do you think, even with its peaks and valleys of popularity, that it is such an enduring form of entertainment?
I think it goes hand in hand with some of the success you see in comic books or other serialized media, that you've got these long form stories that are happening over incredible amounts of time in some cases. And even when you don't have those long form stories, there's a sense of immediacy in wrestling. Everything is incredibly choreographed, very precise, but a lot of times it's being done not only live on air, but live in front of us. I guess you could call them a studio audience, and there's no opportunity for slip ups. You can't retake anything. If you slip and fall down, you've got to work around it and work that into the story of the match. So that also keeps it very interesting as a fan, because anything can happen at any time and things can always change on a dime.
What do you think would be a good entry point for people listening now who are like, I don't know if wrestling's for me or not? What do you think would maybe win them over to get involved in at this point?
You know, it might be an overwhelming recommendation because it is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, but there is a YouTuber by the name of Super Eye Patch Wolf who
Eye Patch Wolf?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure I got that one right, because I didn't want to confuse people with, regular Eye Patch Wolf. So, okay.
Lesser Eye Patch Wolf.
Right.
He's done multiple videos, but the one that I really love is called The Unreality of Pro Wrestling. And it covers the story of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, essentially intertwining their two stories throughout their lives. Reigns being from this background with this incredible Samoan dynasty in wrestling, where he's The Rock's cousin. He's got plenty of other family currently in the business and that were in the business back in the day. Yokozuna is also a relative of theirs. And then Cody being from the Rhodes family, having his father, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, his older brother, Dustin Rhodes, Dustin Runnels, who was Gold Dust in WWE. And it talks about their individual backgrounds and how their stories have intertwined over the years, even before they ever actually faced each other in a wrestling ring. And it, I think, does a great job of capturing how much emotion the matches themselves and the personal human stories behind them can create.
Yeah, I'd imagine that beyond the fighting itself. It's these, not just the storylines, but the backstories of the individuals that can be very compelling. I remember watching the major motion picture, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei, and it was gritty. I mean, it was Darren Aronofsky, so of course it was gritty, but it did kind of present that sort of, human element into what essentially is scripted or scripted to a point.
Yeah, and with that exposure that we have now to what's happening behind the scenes from all the blogs and websites that are covering everything, now if you're going to a show, you would know that Randy the Ram has this heart problem and he's been told he's not supposed to jump off the top rope. And then you see it at the end of the movie or you see it live in the match and there's this extra weight and gravity to it.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Campfire season's back, and that means s'mores. But when you're at home treating yourself, take them over ice with Dunkin' S'mores Cold Brew Concentrate. And suddenly you're always treating yourself. The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be. Click or tap the banner to shop now.
What do you think it is that audiences should care most about? I mean, if the shows are basically scripted, is it the fighting? Is it the athleticism? Is it the storylines? I know you probably want to say all of the above, but what do you think is most compelling?
I've always found it fascinating how much of it is improv and trying to not necessarily figure out what is or isn't planned, but seeing how well that line can be hidden or how well it can be blurred at times. Yeah. When those real life stories get involved and you have people that don't like each other, or somebody that has, not a tasteful storyline, but back in the day, there were people dealing with addiction problems who were confronted with their addictions in matches in pretty messed up ways.
Yeah, no holds barred physically or emotionally sometimes in some of those storylines.
Yeah, and things like that blur those lines, I find that fascinating.
Well, I'm sure you do, not just as a super fan, but actually as a writer. I understand that your newest book of poetry is heavily influenced by a lot of the wrestlers and their storylines.
Yeah, it really started from doing 30 for 30, where we would try to write 30 poems in 30 days in April. And there was a day going into an NXT pay-per-view, which is like WWE's feeder system or their developmental program. Mm-hmm. And there was a match I was really looking forward to. And thinking about that match and how excited I was for it that night, I ended up writing a piece about the psychology of tag team wrestling, comparing Arn Anderson to a painter in the way that he worked with shapes in the ring and severing the ring in half into two triangles and running circles around the opponent. And yeah, so that was kind of the first piece in there. And then a lot of the other work that has gone into it plays with those lines between the reality of the wrestlers and the unreality of the life that they portray in the ring.
Well, I could vouch that you're an amazing poet, AJ, and I really am looking forward to that. Whether or not I think people love wrestling or not, it is yet another way that this cultural phenomenon impacts art and artists. And I'm also wondering about the local wrestling scene. I've heard lots of friends telling me that they're going out to places and checking out stuff. What is the local wrestling scene like?
The local scene is great and surprisingly diverse. It used to be not just here, but almost anywhere you would basically only have one local promotion. Now we have I think 4 at this point. I don't know if Pride Style purely operates based out of Vegas, but Future Stars of Wrestling we've got here, Big Valley Wrestling versus Pro Wrestling, and there are probably others that I'm not even aware of.
Now, are they influenced at all by WWE or even UFC's presence in Las Vegas?
Oh, definitely. I went to an FSW show, Future Stars of Wrestling, just last month. They did what they called the Benefit for Bay. Chris Bay, who's a homegrown talent from here in Vegas, had a severe neck injury a while back and was told he was never going to be able to walk again. And at the end of that show, after, other wrestlers who came up in FSW and have gone to WWE had put on special matches as part of that benefit show, Chris was actually able to walk out to the ring and give a speech at the end of the night. And it was incredibly emotional and inspiring. We've seen this guy have I believe it was his C4 vertebrae broken in the ring and being paralyzed to where he was able to walk out and thank us all for coming to the show.
Where are people able to go see local wrestling matches?
FSW has their own space that they call the FSW Arena. I believe it's on Harrison Avenue, if I'm remembering right. Their bigger shows like that Mecca show, the Benefit for Bay, those tend to happen at the Vale at the South Point.
Okay, cool. And then I understand a music venue down in the Arts District, Swan Dive, has been doing some wrestling events as well.
Yeah, I think Swan Dive is one of the venues that they use for Pride Style, which puts a lot more focus on LGBTQ plus talent in the business. They've been doing them for Mania Week. There's also Meet Las Vegas is doing shows. The Dive Bar has shows. Downtown Las Vegas Events Center.
Wow.
Plenty of places all around town. Plus Pearl, T-Mobile, Allegiant.
Yeah, Allegiant now. You described it as the Super Bowl of WrestleMania. So I imagine a lot of fans are going to be coming to town for this. You're a poet, you're a homegrown boy here, you're a wrestling fan. What is it about it, really, at the end of the day, that creates your love? I mean, what is the appeal?
I feel like we always throw the word pageantry around about wrestling, and that is a big part of it. There's such a drama and gravitas to the entire presentation, whether it's, people coming out to entrance music and having pyro go off and their names in lights and the fan responses, the cheers, the chants. It turns into, in ways, almost like a religious experience. You're becoming part of this emotional mass with the rest of the audience for the duration of the show, and it becomes almost an out-of-body experience when it's really, really great.
Yeah, I see photos from it, and I see people holding up big signs and whatnot. If you had the ability to get some prime seats at WrestleMania 41 and you had a sign in your hand, what would the sign say?
Ooh, I'm not much of a sign guy, so I haven't really thought about that. At this point, it would probably be something anti-Cena, just to go along with the current thing of Cena having turned heel after his entire career being the ultimate babyface basically since 2002. So probably a good, crossover with some of the old Dusty Rhodes storylines with everything with Cody, and do a John Cena sucks eggs or something like that.
There you go. All right. Well, AJ, I hope that your dream comes true here and Cena goes down. And I really appreciate you sharing your wealth of knowledge about wrestling in our community. Thanks so much for joining us on CityCast Las Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, David.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend. You could also rate our show, hit in those little stars. Leave us a review too, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.